Oh, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois. And this is Midday with Reverend Don, and I hope you're having a lovely day. And it's always a pleasure to join you at midday. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into whatever platform you happen to be watching on, and they will show up here in my chat room. They'll show up on our screen, and we can communicate directly. And I quite enjoy that part of this broadcast. I hope you do as well. Today, oh, and hello to Reverend Michael in the chat room. It's good to see you, Michael. Today, I was going to talk a little more about the Witchie Awards. If you remember, we were talking about them not too long ago when they were doing their nomination process. Hello to Krista in the chat room. And they've now brought out their nominees for the awards. And in fact, we are up for 2 awards. And at the risk of a little shameless self-promoting, I wanted to point out that we are up for Best Vidcast/Vlog of the Year as Magic TV, and Best Video of the Year for Journey to the Parliament. And if you like the things that we do here, if you like our various programming, please consider voting for us. And hello to Lynn in the chat room, and hello to Tom in the chat room. And Happy New Year, Lynn. Happy New Year, everyone. And we were talking last year about some of the things that make this kind of award important. One of them is that recognition is one of the relatively few advantages that creators get in this community, to tell them that what they're doing is good and appreciated. Now, Krista asks, where do we vote? Modernwitch.com and modernwitch.com / the Witchcraft Occult Media Awards. But I think if you go to Modern Witch, it will be clear on the front page, and you can also find it on many of our platforms here online. And hello to Avalon in the chat room. It's good to see you, Avalon. And voting will continue through January 26th. Modernwitch.com, the Witchie Awards. And again, this is one of those things that tells creators that what they do is worth the effort. And hello to Sarah in the chat room. And Sarah says, good afternoon, and so good to hear you, Reverend Don. Thank you, Sarah, and Happy New Year and bright blessings. Sarah says, and Happy New Year and bright blessings to you also. It is nice to be in the opening days of the new year. Here in Danville, the sky is very overcast today. I don't know if it's obvious that my lighting is a little different. I had to turn on some additional lighting because the natural light that I usually get in this position just wasn't what it normally is. So I'm going to assume we probably have more snow coming. And, snow is one of those interesting things that we get farther north here on Earth. And I have been blissfully away from snow for many years, but now we get to know each other again. But the thing about snow is that snow keeps the earth warm during winter. That's its purpose. It provides insulation for the seeds that are in the ground, for creatures that are hibernating underground. It certainly is a good thing. It just isn't always the most convenient thing for elderly humans. And luckily, I don't have to be out in it all too often. And it's not really the snow that bothers me. It's the ice that is sometimes under it. Snow itself really isn't that big a thing, and it's always beautiful to look at. In fact, one of the most beautiful things that I least like to experience is an ice storm. And if you live here in the Midwest, you certainly know exactly what I mean by an ice storm, and that afterwards, it often is just the most beautiful landscape. But to actually have to go out in it is not so pleasant. But, this is often true in life, that things that serve a very good purpose are not always the most pleasant things to deal with. That doesn't mean their purpose wasn't good. And this is how I look at life. Um, and I'm not thrilled with having to go out in the snow, but I am thrilled that the Earth has that insulation during winter. Um, I'm um, not going to be upset that it snows because it's a good thing for the world, and I will watch it from my window and be happy for the Earth. When I was younger and didn't necessarily have that option, I liked it less. I remember once when I was working in downtown Chicago, I remember once in the middle of winter being in downtown Chicago in the middle of the day, and there had been an ice storm. But I was working there. I still had to be there, and I'm trying to thread my way along the ice-covered sidewalks, and we have the wind in Chicago. And as large a man as I am, the wind did blow me off my feet, and that was a memorable experience. One of the reasons I don't like ice storms. Also, our Illinois ice storms are the origin of one of my favorite phrases, that your magic is no good to you if you can't call upon it when your car is skidding off the road. Because I remember doing that once when I was a new driver, and happened to find myself out in an unexpected ice storm. Um, as I recall, the ice storm itself was expected, but later in the day and came early. Hello to Janet in the chat room. Um, but it's the nature of weather that it's not perfectly predictable. Nature of life that it's not perfectly predictable, and although sometimes when things are unexpected, it can be a source of worry or annoyance. But on the other hand, if everything were just as we expected it, wouldn't we be bored? I would be bored. Um, but I do like it when most things are as I expect. Getting back to the idea of the Witchie Awards, I was saying that one of the major benefits of this sort of award is that it lets you know that your work is worthwhile, that it means things to people. And this is important to any creator. Um, and in our pagan world, it's often one of the rare things that you get to see to show that your work is appreciated. So whoever you choose to vote for, I hope that you will go and vote at the Witchie Awards. The other thing that this sort of thing does is it shows where the attention and interest of the community is, at least when you have a good um, outturn for voting. And speaking as a creator, that's always good to know, to see what people are interested in, to see what is hitting them and having meaning in their lives. It's a good way to take the pulse of the community also. And Sarah says, I have an amazing photo I took of crystal clear ice encasing each needle on an evergreen tree. It was a single small branch and so beautiful. And yes, I can imagine that is a beautiful photo. And one of the photos I sometimes see also that shows up on in social media are ghost apples. Apples that were caught in an ice storm and the ice formed around them, and then the apple itself dropped, leaving only the icy ghost of the apple. Another very beautiful thing that you would only see as the result of an ice storm. So I can't say that that I regret their existence. I've seen such beauty created by them. I just don't like going out in them. And I suppose and that is instructive, I think, on how people look at life. And I've talked before, when people think about their idea of perfection, it's usually whatever is convenient to them, and meets their individual needs, which is great for your personal view of perfection. But if you're talking about the universe, if you're talking about divine justice, for example, it's not necessarily going to be the same sort of thing that is conducive to your convenience. Um, I believe that the universe does move in accordance with divine justice, but that doesn't necessarily have much relevance to how we see it as individual humans. And hello to George in the chat room. And George says, snow rollers are the coolest. I've only seen them twice. And I also don't get out in the nastiness any more than I have to. I totally agree. Um, it's interesting. I lived in Florida for about 10 years. And if it goes under 70, people get out their winter coats. They really do. Um, and very different here in the Midwest. Um, and I'm enjoying being back. It's definitely a different atmosphere. And hello to Renee in the chat room. It's good to see you, Renee. Um, it is. It's much easier to see the progression of the seasons in this part of the country. We had the same progression of the seasons in Florida, but to a lesser degree. Some people might think there's no winter in Florida, and we would joke about that. But even when I was living in Central Florida as opposed to Northern Florida, we had winter. I remember once it got down into the 50s in Central Florida, which everyone in Central Illinois is laughing, but there that seemed very cold. Here we'd consider that a wonderful day for the middle of winter. And it's all a matter of perspective. And when I come to spirituality, when I come to how I look at life, I remember this lesson. And hello to Lepus in the chat room. And Lepus says seasons come everywhere and every place changes. Absolutely. Except that sometimes those changes are more obvious than others, and that's only natural. And as I look at the way that we looked at winter in Florida versus how we look at winter in Illinois, it reminds me that everything is a matter of perspective. It's a matter of how you look at it. And when I come to my spirituality, I look at things that same way. I remember that that what seems one way from one perspective can seem very different from another. And I talk about that a lot in terms of how we look at the nature of deity, for example, how we look at incarnation, how we look at the nature of the soul. How we're looking at it, literally, makes a difference to how we're going to perceive it. And it only stands to reason not everyone would perceive it in quite the same way. Because, people around the world will not perceive winter in the same way, even though we're all experiencing it at some time in the year. And Rolando, hello, Rolando. It's good to see you. Rolando says, it seems Florida is a nice place. Florida is a very pleasant climate, in my opinion. That's why so many old people like to go and retire there. It does get quite warm in the summer, but then so does Illinois. It does not get cold in the winter by comparison. When I lived in Jacksonville, it could get down into the 30s. It could get down to freezing, but not very often. It was theoretically possible to see snow, but not very often, and certainly not every year. When I lived in Central Illinois or Central Florida, I remember seeing beautiful blooming flowers on trees in January. And hello to Phoenix in the chat room. It's good to see you. And Lord Phoenix says, good afternoon, my good sir, and good afternoon to you. Avalon says, it sounds like we're talking about the elements. And Rolando says, when I was in Chicago, although it was August, it was still too cold for me. And Sir Rolando comes from the Philippines. I'm sure Chicago was very cold compared to the Philippines. And George says, I went fishing on New Year's Day. It was 36 degrees. Didn't stay long. Yeah, that's the kind of thing we do here. And Janet says, we're expected to have snow in Ohio. Yeah, and like I say, looking at the sky here, I suspect we'll have it here. one of the things about the place that I'm living right now, we have stairs leading into the house, which is not a problem for the most part. But if we get ice, it will be a little bit more of a problem. And hello to Sir Edward in the chat room who says snow, snow, snow. Um, I'm sure it's going to. But this speaks to the differences we experience in life, the different ways that we look at things. And as I was saying, regarding awards, regarding, for example, at present the Witchie Awards, um, it also does help to show the different ways that we as a community are looking at things. It can be, if you have a good outturn of people voting for those awards, it can be a bit of a snapshot of the community, if you're old enough to remember the word snapshot. And Lord Phoenix says it's snowing in Buffalo right now, but that's hardly news. Yeah, that's not news. Buffalo is known for snow. And it was very interesting on New Year's Eve. We had a Corellian chat room going overnight, and I was there for a while. And Lord Phoenix came in through video from downtown Buffalo, where he was for the dropping of the New Year's ball, and that was quite enjoyable to watch. And Lepo says, so how would I know if voting for them makes sense? Well, there are a couple of things you can do if you don't recognize the people who are up for the award. One of the things you might do, most of them, I believe, have connections to the channel or the particular video or the website that is referenced in the award. So you could go and look for yourself and see what they're doing. And it might be a good way to learn about new things you've not seen before. And there are an awful lot of nominees, and I think that there would be a lot to learn going through them all. And of course, I made the mistake of stopping to look, but it has many good things being nominated. And like I say, nomination and winning awards like this, even being nominated for them, helps to show creators that their work is valued and that the things they're doing actually have meaning for people. And that's one of the things that I at least find is always a question. And that is, are the subjects I'm talking about, the issues I'm referring to, are they in fact what people are interested in? And there are different ways you can tell. You can tell by how many people are watching. You can tell by people's comments. These are certainly always good things. But things like awards also tell you that, yes, you are covering the right subjects. You are addressing things in a way that has meaning for people. And when you are a creator of content this way, it's always good to see that. It's always reassuring to see that. And Sir Rolando says, I just voted the ones I know, and that is Magic TV and Journey to the Parliament. I hope I could know others, but I'm happy enough for who I know. And that's perfectly fine too. But the Witchie Awards and also the recent Sacred Path Awards, Sacred Path 2023 Recognition Awards, in which we also, some of our team won awards. Sir Edward won the Scroll of Knowledge. Reverend Mary won the Stang of Wisdom Awards from Sacred Path. This tells us that we're doing things right, that we're bringing things to people they want to see. So I'm hoping that well, I'm certainly grateful to see that we were nominated. And in the end, the nomination is recognition by itself. And if we happen to win one of them, that'll be great. For those of you who are not familiar with the film Journey to the Parliament, it was made literally for the Parliament of the World's Religions, and it deals with the interaction of pagans and the Parliament, and particularly Sir Edward's story interacting with the Parliament. It involves interviews with a number of people, including Sir Edward himself, including me, including Andrea Joy, including Mistress Prime, including Lawrence Lerner, and a variety of people. And it tells their stories of their interaction with the Parliament, and speaks a bit to the development of the Parliament. And it's really quite a good film. I highly recommend it, and you can find it on Magic TV. And if you haven't already seen it, I would recommend going and seeing it. It had its premiere literally at the Parliament, which was quite a memorable thing. And it is always interesting to me to see how Parliament has affected different people. I think that it's actually a fairly important film in that sense. It records people's attitudes and experiences that you're not going to see recorded in a lot of places. And, that's one of the things we've tried to do through Magic TV and now Pagan World TV. We have tried to record and present our community and its ideas and reactions to things. Often things that you would never see anywhere else. Now today, as we have many more pagans involved in media, there are many people doing this, and that's wonderful. And I love the fact that there are so many different vlogs and vidcasts and TV stations, and I think the more the merrier. I think that the more people are carrying our message to the world, for want of a better way to put it, the more people who are representing our image for ourselves, the better off we are. But I'm very pleased to have been involved in it for so long. And, at Magic TV, we have so many, well, years and years of 20 years of video offerings, nearly 20 years, and of all sorts, from instructional videos to documentaries to videos from many different events, some of which no longer happen, interviews with pagan leaders and authors and psychics and other notable people, and also just plain people who are attending events. Some of these are people who you will not see interviewed in very many other places, if anywhere at all. And many of them, we have interviews with a number of leaders and authors who are no longer with us. And I'm very pleased that we were able to bring them into video during their lifetime. I'm particularly pleased with our several different interviews with Olivia Robertson of the Fellowship of Isis. And although there are many interviews of Lady Olivia out there, I'm pleased that we had the chance to do that. Raven Grimazzi, many other people. And it's been an adventure, really, over the years, doing all of that videography, interviewing all of those people, going to all of those places. And it's history. It is a huge block of history of this community. All the years we went to the St. Louis Pagan Picnic and watched it develop and bloom and blossom, and many other events that we went to. And you can still see all of this at Magic TV. You can see many wonderful offerings here at Pagan World TV. And we continue to come to you every day. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that, and I hope that it has meaning to people. And but I would have to say, looking at all of the comments we're getting in the chat room, that it must have meaning to people, or they wouldn't keep coming back every day. And I love the fact that it's not always the same people, and sometimes it will be people commenting who I've not seen before, and that's just delightful to me. Um, Tomorrow, I have an interview with Deborah Joy Hart, who is a psychic and spiritual promoter here in Illinois. Uh, if you remember when I first started Midday with Reverend Don, I had set Thursdays aside for interviews. Tomorrow we're returning to that format. I hope that you enjoy that interview. I enjoyed doing it. Deborah is a delightful person and has many interesting things to say. And I'm hoping to bring you a number of other interesting interviews as we go forward in this year. I have, and Lord Phoenix says, "Yay, can't wait." I think you'll enjoy it. And I have to say that if you go back through the vaults of Magic TV, and hello to Jeff in the chat room. It's good to see you, Jeff. You can certainly see my development as an interviewer. Because when I started, I was a total, um, I was a bad interviewer. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew it needed to be done. And I would ask usually the same questions. They were relevant questions, they were good questions. I would ask people about their career. I would ask them about the changes they'd seen in the community during their career, what they hope to see in the future. Not bad questions, but I think I've gotten a lot better with my questions over the years. Um, and similarly, if you go back and look at Reverend Don's vlog, which I did for a solid decade, if you look at the first ones, they could be very hesitant versus the last ones. And, you know, I sit here now talking to this camera for half an hour a day. And the only reason I can do that with anything regarding um, order and, um, and good performance is all those years of doing it. And you know, I would say to you, no matter what it is you want to do, just because you have no experience in it, or just because you've not done it before, that's no reason not to do it. Just because you do it once and it doesn't come off well, doesn't mean it's not going to get better. It will always get better. Practice makes perfect. So often people think, you know, I'd really like to try this. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's painting, maybe it's videography, um, maybe it's 1,000 other things. They try it once, it doesn't live up to their fantasy, and they figure they're just not any good at it. But the truth is, virtually anyone you see doing anything worked a long time to perfect how to do it right. And um, if you're willing to put in that time to learn how to do it right, you too can do pretty much anything you want. It's a matter of discipline and practice and being willing to come back and keep doing it. And that includes those times when you may feel burned out, you may feel tired, um, but you know you have to continue moving forward. Or if you don't continue moving forward, then you come to a standstill, which can be all right at certain times in life too. But I tend to prefer moving forward. So with that, I see that we have, and at the very last minute, we have a troll. And I'll just take a moment to point out to you that no decent psychic goes around randomly telling people that they have a reading for them in a chat room. Never reply to something like that. It's always a scam. So that's my last piece of advice for you today. Um, and I see that we've come to the end of our half hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I love spending this time with you. And tomorrow we'll have our interview with Deborah Joy Hart. And now let us close with our prayer, as we always do. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives. And we ask you to help us to always see the signs that we are doing the right thing, or what the right thing is if we need direction. Help us to know when we are building a better world, when we are touching people's lives, and help us to continue to do so. Help us to know the important things to focus on as we go forward. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and thanks. And knowing you are always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And we will see you tomorrow.